Day 3. So before I start, every day you can practice the things that you did the previous day and try and link them all together. So on day 1 we did our deep squat. Yesterday on the ground we did our base switch. You can practice going from here to here, to here, to here, back into a squat. Okay? So try and start linking these things that we do day to day together. Our movement on the ground today is going to be rolling. It's something that, again, as adults, we do very little of. And even with kids, I think kids do it naturally. They don't necessarily do perfect technique, but they're really accustomed to being on the ground and rolling around. So today I'm going to take you through probably 4 stages of some rolling you can do. All of them are safe, but just feel your way into them and listen to the cues, because as we go into the other ones, we want to be trying to protect our head and protect our neck by not actually getting into positions where we can hurt them. So the first one is super simple. This one can be done with kids, although kids hate being still for some reason. But the challenge for them is to only use the part of the body that they're allowed to. So all you're going to do, you want to be completely dead on the ground. Okay? So the only thing that you're going to be using to roll over is the limb and your head that you choose. So everything is dead. I'm going to take my left arm without using any support from my feet or my other arm, and I'm going to try and follow that arm over until I'm on the other side. To get back, I'm going to take my left leg, everything stays dead, and all I'm doing is lifting from the leg to get back. And then obviously I can do my other arm and then my other leg. I can always also use my arm to come back. And this one's way harder. Okay? So that is level 1. Level 2 is you're going to start preparing your spine a little bit more to roll over. So all you want to do, tuck your knees in. You're trying to feel a nice round back, and all you're doing is rocking back and forward. Okay? Keeping a nice curved spine, and you're going for smoothness. So I don't want to feel clunkiness by keeping too much of a straighter spine. Level 3 is a side roll. Now this one, you want to make sure you are doing it slowly and you're not landing on your shoulder, because then you possibly can hurt yourself. So the idea is you tuck up into the smallest ball you can. When I go down, I'm not landing on my shoulder. I'm trying to get my shoulder underneath my body and then just simply roll over. So here, under, and again soft. If I go back, trying to keep the shape. The biggest thing I see when I teach this one, especially to kids, is this. Everything gets let go. You want to make sure you're keeping your body nice and tight. And the last one is a shoulder roll, parkour roll. They use it in martial arts. Now what we're trying to do here is not put our head on the ground and not get our neck involved. So the easiest way I found, especially to teach adults this one, you want to get down on your knees and you want to make sure you're staying compact. Your hands don't want to be too far away from you, okay? They want to be relatively close. One of your hands is going to be your post or leg of a chair. Essentially, that's going to be your support, and that can come up and down as much as you need, but you're using that as your point of balance, okay? This hand is going to rotate inwards. And all I'm going to do is this little gap here, I'm going to look under that armpit, okay? So this hand, I rotate in, I look under my armpit, and my goal is to get the back of my shoulder on the floor. Like that. You might find your leg kicks out to help you balance. So that is just stage one, it's just practicing here. Then, once you feel confident, you simply let go. Okay, and you can do that on both sides. So the idea is we don't touch. You might touch your head softly on the ground, but it's not resting on the ground, and you're definitely not trying to trigger anything in your neck. So here, I'm trying to get the back of my shoulder. I'm basically, if I do it this way, trying to get my head as far through that gap as possible. So when I roll, I'm already halfway through. So that's your ground movement practice for today, is rolling. You've got your dead roll lying flat on the floor. You've got your rocking backwards and forwards. You've got your side roll, and you've got your shoulder roll. And a nice little game is, if you've got enough space on your floor, just pick a few corners and you just try and get from one area to another with any kind of roll, okay? So a little game you can play. This is a little bit slower, but it's also teaching you to be soft and organize your body on the floor. Is I balance something, and my goal is to get down and try and move across the room, and I need to be thinking about where this arm is. Without losing control of the Jenga blocks, okay? You could simply do that with a tennis ball in your hand as well. So the goal is you keep your hand flat as you go around. So you're having to move around, keeping your hand flat with the ball. Something on our feet. So the first couple of sessions I've given you some single leg balancing work. Today we're going to look at something called a sumo squat. And what I'm trying to do with these movements is give you things that you might never ever do or do very, very rarely. Because as humans, and especially adults, we tend to lose variability in the amount of movement that we have. Our movements become a lot more repetitive and similar day to day than they were when we were kids. And this is like a slow cycle. So kids under 5, high variability. They're getting full height to full depth on the ground. They're rolling around. Doesn't hurt when they fall over. Their joints are malleable, elastic. And then once they start school, they start wearing shoes, which tends to block the sensory information into their feet. Then their joints start responding by tightening up a little bit. They start sitting a lot more, so they're only coming from full height to half height rather than all the way to the floor. And then this just increases through college into adulthood. So what these movements are trying to do is introduce more variability. It's going to help, one, you're going to see where you're at right now, and two, it's going to give you a pathway to try and increase the variability in your, especially your legs for these ones, and therefore help your joints become younger. So, without further ado, today's squat is not like your traditional squat. So when we do we see traditional squats, it'll look something like this, and you'll see people doing up and down with that same repetitive pattern. Absolutely fantastic exercise for building strength in your legs and in your whole body, but there's not a lot of variability. So today we're going to challenge your feet, your ankles, your knees a lot more. If you are a runner or you walk lots, it's going to really help with a lot of work and consistency. It's going to really help open up those lower legs, which are going to transform how you feel when you do those modalities. Because when you think about it, they are the base of your pyramid. So if you've got really receptive and mobile joints in the lower legs, you're gonna feel a lot more. Everything's gonna organize itself better above them. You're gonna get injured and feel tight a lot less. So, in preparation for this, essentially what we're doing, the whole movement is we're going from standing and we're going to come down to this position here where we're balancing on our feet and our toes. Now, to prepare ourselves a little bit, a lot of you might find this position is just too hard. So what we can do to warm up a little bit, and I would say in the realm of kind of 10 to 20 reps of this, just nice and gentle, is you're going from sitting on your toes, you might just be here, might just be a little bit. So toes to feet under, to toes to feet under. And you can use your hands, you can try and do it without your hands. The other thing you can do is go toes if you can, you just come up and then down. Great for kids, really good. What you want to see with kids is control. So kids have the great ability to get into positions, but their control tends to be a little bit erratic. So second part of this. So from our feet, what we want to do is set up our feet so we have space in between here. First part of the movement is we want to sit our hips back. Spine nice and relaxed. We're not looking up here forwards. Our head's just an extension of our spine. So I sit my hips back. I can use my legs to help support my upper body. And all I'm doing is coming down to here. And then I come back onto my feet, stand up. So it's back, support myself all the way down, and then come back up. From the front, nice open foot position, sit back, support myself, and here, nice open position. Okay? Again, sit back, stand up. If you want to think of it in terms of direction, I go back, forward, okay? A really good number of these to start with would be 9 to 15. Just real gentle. You're not trying to kill your legs. You're just trying to give yourself enough time to practice and get into these positions. Now, for those of you who struggle with any of this, you can use any kind of prop. This is fantastic. So find where the hard part of the movement is. So if the hard part is the bottom, then what we can do is just here, and we just come down as much as you can. You don't have to get all the way to the floor. So you've got the practicing parts at the bottom. You can practice the bottom part. Here you're practicing the top part of the movement. And then slowly over time, you're bringing them closer together to come to this full position here. Okay? So that is the sumo squat. Here's your challenge. If you can do the full movement, the higher the water level, the more balanced you have to be. And all you're doing is doing that same movement and balancing a cup of water in your hand. Okay? Try 2 cups of water in your hand while you're doing it. As I said, more filled with water, the more risk. And then you can still use the old, where would I be without my Jenga blocks? So even just coming all the way to the floor here and tucking and then getting back up is a nice little game you can play. With kids, you're looking for control. Nice control and the ability to engage and concentrate. If you're doing it with kids, doing it with the external challenge is the easiest way to do it. And it's just getting up and down whilst keeping control of the water. So here's one more little game you can play, fantastic for kids, on your feet. And we call it at the gym hoop wrestling. I've got a hoop here, but you don't have to use a hoop. You could use a piece of string, a piece of rope, an extension cord. Basically, you want to make about a 1 meter or less diameter circle. the smaller the diameter, the tighter the playing field, which creates different challenges. And the idea with these games is to play. Yes, there's a winner and a loser, but the idea is you want to win and lose as many times as possible. So soon as one player wins, you back into it, restart. You might want to. The key to doing this with kids is getting them to understand if they're super dominant over the other person, then what are some rules or handicaps you could introduce that would make the contest more even? And even letting the kids kind of come up with their own rules to kind of even the playing field is fantastic, because then they're starting to use their own minds and their own recognizing what's going on a little bit more. This one's a great one to play adult on adult, and you can do this gentle. You don't have to sort of throw the other person around. So when my assistant gets here, I'll demonstrate it, explain the basic rules, but we have a lot of fun with this one in the gym. Okay, so here's the game. Here's my hoop. On the floor, you may enter. So the rules are, we each put 1 foot into the circle. It doesn't matter which one it is. And a good place to start with this one is hands together. If you've ever played Mercy, it's kind of like that, but the idea is not to break the other person's wrists and hands. It's simply to create a connection, so that I'm not reaching out to grab them and I accidentally poke them in the eye. It tends to be a little bit safer this way. So hands together, don't scratch me with your massive nails. Doesn't matter which hoop you go on, which foot goes into the hoop. Now my goal is to make Jess step out of the hoop. Okay, so her whole foot touches the ground outside of the hoop. So if this foot touches the ground, I lose. If this foot goes in, I lose. And if any part of my body touches the ground, I lose. And then I restart. Are you ready? Mm-hmm. Go. So I'm going real nice on Jess because I'm a strong, powerful man. Come on, why don't you put in the effort that you do when you're real angry. Now, this is what I see a lot of. Linear pushing and pulling. Alright? If you want to get better at this game, you've got to learn to pivot. So go again. Okay? Yeah. So I'm moving around the hoop rather than staying in that one plane of motion, which is forward and backwards. Okay? Give that one a crack. Thank you, Jessica. It's heaps of fun. So today, something to learn is another coordination pattern. Today is a lot more complex than the first 2 days because it involves stepping and changing direction. But again, the beauty in these is every single day you're having to solve a physical puzzle, not just with your mind. So imagine doing a Sudoku or a crossword or whatever, you're just using this. These ones, you're having to organize your body and try and figure this stuff out. Now, the beauty is in the learning. Don't expect to be able to do it perfectly. If you can, that's awesome. But tomorrow, it's going to be a different one. So it's going through that struggle, especially with kids. I see some kids really take to a task and want to learn it better, and they stick to it. A lot of kids, when they try something new and they fail at it first time, they shy away from it and they don't want to do it again. So trying to get them into that habit of sucking at something is super, super, super important, because then when they see a problem, they are more inclined to try and solve it as opposed to shy away from it because they're not good at it. So you might need to encourage kids to try and really, really see if they can get it working. But again, I filmed this one outside because it's a lot nicer out there on the grass. What I'm going to do is I also try and learn some of these every day, especially now when I'm stuck inside, because it helps keep me feeling sane and alive. I'll post some of me going through the struggle of trying to learn this stuff as well, because everyone struggles at this when they're learning something for the first time. Without further ado,